A dangerous virus is spreading rapidly in China, and U.S. officials are very worried that it could come here.
A SARS-like virus, which has infected hundreds in China, has now reached the United States.
The World Health Organization declared the outbreak an international public health emergency.
2.4 million people are now known to have COVID-19 in the U.S. That is only the people who have been tested. According to new estimates from the Centers for Disease Control, the real number could be 10 times higher.
In March of 2020, students of all ages and grades were sent home to continue classes remotely for the remainder of the academic year. I decided to sit down with some friends of mine to get their point of view on what remote learning looked like for them, including graduating high school and college amidst a worldwide pandemic. Take me back to March of 2020. What did your school initially tell you?
I think my school, of the people that I talked to, was the first one to take any action, like of people that I knew from home and other schools. It was a Monday. It was maybe noon, and I was in a class at the time. We all got like an email from our university saying that effective like 1 p.m. that day, like in an hour, we weren't going to have any more classes for the day or for the next few days, and that they wanted us to go home as soon as possible. And by that point, it wasn't that bad, I don't think, in New York. I think they maybe had like 20 to 30 confirmed cases, but since it's a big city, they were like, go home right now. So then like that class, we kind of just all left it because we were like freaking out.
It was the second week of March, and things got progressively worse. You know, people started catching cases in PG County, which is the county in which the University of Maryland is in, and people started, getting alarmed. The school had released a public statement, I believe, talking about, their plan, which at that time was very kind of in its beginnings because no one knew what to do. And by Wednesday and Thursday, they essentially said, you're going home on Friday, you're gonna stay home for 2 weeks, so we got an extra week of spring break, and then we didn't come back. Shocker.
I think it was March 9th or 10th, whatever that Monday was. That is what I call the last great day of college, because it was the first nice day of spring semester, and I've had a rule since freshman year that the first nice day of spring semester, everybody has to skip their classes and hang out outside. And we were all like, yeah, like things are a little weird, like maybe we'll have an extended spring break. But somehow I kind of knew that was it. Week went by, and by the end of the week, they were like, okay, we're gonna extend spring break, like be safe, don't do anything. One thing leads to another, and I'm living up in Hartford, and I remember I was in Elizabeth Park when I got the email that school was closed for the rest of the semester and that we would be finishing online. And I remember I was laying in a hammock. I just curled up in a little cocoon and cried and cried and cried because I was so sad.
At first it was just like a 2-week closing, and then during that it was like, okay, we're gonna close for like a little bit longer, and then they're like, oh, we're just gonna close for the rest of the year. Everything's gonna be online until, the end of the school year. It was definitely I guess heartbreaking because during high school you look forward to senior year, senior trip and graduation, all these things, and we didn't really get to do a lot of it. We tried to do graduation, it was kind of iffy, but we did our best, I guess.
How has your academic performance been affected?
I think we have to remember that students' mental health and their academic outcomes and their academic engagement are so intricately intertwined. So when students are feeling emotionally distressed, when they're feeling disconnected from their peers, from their teachers, that can take a toll on their ability to stay engaged and feel motivated to learn.
In almost all of my interviews, lack of motivation seemed to be the key issue that everyone was having.
It's hard to get motivated when I'm looking at a screen 90% of my day. And it's also hard to get motivated when I barely leave my room.
I was dragging myself to my computer to do something that I had absolutely no motivation to do.
I don't have the motivation or drive that I had before that I can say that with 100% certainty. In general, I've still been pretty okay keeping up with my work, I think, because I don't have much motivation, but I also have anxiety when I'm doing bad.
It's kind of gotten worse. Procrastination has definitely been a thing this semester. It's hard being home, especially when you have a bunch of things going on. you know, family and stuff like that.
When you are in an online class, there are so many outs that you can take to just not pay attention. Like you can turn your camera off, you can play on your phone, you can play on the computer. So it's just so easy to not pay attention right now, which is, I think, what a lot of us are doing is just we're paying a lot less attention.
Learning online is just not as effective, and I think there's a reason why up until this public health crisis, we, learned in school, in person.
I did not take classes online in college because I simply cannot take classes online. I am a terrible online learner.
Everyone has taken a hit in terms of their grades, and that's to be expected, and I think it is not the fault of the students, it's the situation.
I was so bummed when my GPA was not as high as I wanted it to be, even though I tried as hard as I could, but there's only so much effort that you can put in while also combating this huge life experience that completely affects you as a person.
Which leads me into my next topic, the pandemic's effect on one's mental health.
During this time when there's so much focus on our physical health, it's important not to forget about our mental health. With all the changes happening as we overcome this pandemic, it's easy to feel overwhelmed, anxious, and stressed.
So then that leads me into my next question, which was, how did you feel that your mental health has been affected?
The first thing that comes to mind when I think of my mental health is an underwater shipwreck. Yeah, actually, that's a really good metaphor. I'm gonna run with that. I feel like my mental health was a little boat just floating along, and I was okay. COVID coming was like a big old cannonball, and it completely sunk my boat. And I feel like over the past 9 months, I've just been taking these deep sea dives down to salvage parts of me. And I feel like I'm still doing that. And I don't have the whole ship back.
In addition to the pandemic, I've also been having some troubles elsewhere that have been causing a lot of mental health issues. The pandemic does not make anything better.
It was rough at first. Me and my mom talked about this a lot because she was like, you're handling this pretty well. But then I would sit there and not talk and not do anything. It fluctuated a lot. It still does. I don't know. It's just really hard to just have every day be the exact same and know that for the time being that's not going to change and there's not that much I can do to change that.
Okay, let's start from the beginning. I had already been seeing a therapist pre-March 2020 and I was on medication, and then quarantine happened and it just got infinitely worse. I'm now on 2 separate medications. I see a psychiatrist on top of my therapist, and I still feel like ass. So, I'm paying an exponential amount of money
just to feel like ass.
Just to feel like ass.
It didn't hit me at first, but then a month went by, and then one night I was literally oh my god, especially learning that I couldn't go to college, and that's when somebody wants to get away for a couple months. No senior trip, no prom, no graduation.
For the class of 2020, this should be a time to celebrate. Instead, graduation ceremonies are on hold. No caps, no gowns, no goodbyes.
What was the graduation like during all of this?
I finished my senior thesis and I graduated in the most anticlimactic way of hitting send and then crying because Easy Bib took so much life out of me for that thesis. Commencement has been pushed again to May. What they want to do is combine the class of 2020 and the class of 2021. I haven't even gotten a diploma yet. I don't feel like I graduated college at all.
We had a photo opportunity with the field all set up how it would be for graduation. We could take pictures and at the front of the stage, in front of a sign that said seniors 2020 and stuff like that. It was really sweet. They tried their best to kind of incorporate all the things that you would get at graduation but couldn't because of COVID. And then we had the in-person one, which was optional, whoever wanted to go, and it was good. It was good enough. We were all spaced out. It was handled as well as it could be in the beginning.
The University of Washington became the nation's first large college to close its classrooms, saying it will cancel in-person classes and have students take classes and exams remotely instead.
At Stanford and Harvard, they're canceling classes or they're going to online learning, not just for a couple of weeks, but for the rest of the year.
This is my last question. Do you think, in your personal opinion, the way the world is looking right now in terms of the virus, do you think we will ever have a chance at another normal semester or even a full year at college?
I don't want to like put a date on it or like predict some time that we can, because I just don't think that has worked out so far for anybody who's tried, but I think that we will. At least before we graduate, I think we'll be okay to have at least one full semester or one full year, hopefully, or something, some normalcy.
I mean, I'm always hoping. I mean, it's not going to be, I feel like it's not going to be like normal for like a long time, but like definitely like as close as it can be. I'm hoping, hopefully sophomore year, maybe like my junior year, we'll be able to like get back and like actually be able to like do stuff like a school together instead of just like using Zoom for everything, and like actually meeting people and seeing faces like in person.
Whew, that's a hard question. I think there's a lot of uncertainty right now. Is there a possibility that we could go back to quote unquote normal? Yeah, but what is normal anymore? Normal is mask wearing, social distancing, and quarantine. I would like to think that someday I can play Frisbee outside with my friends while hundreds of people are, on the big quad at our college just having a blast, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. Like, this is not a freak incident. This is the new normal. So I'm honestly very scared to see what happens. I'm hoping for the best, but ready for the worst.
I think I'm a little more optimistic. I think once a vaccine comes out, I think it's going to be easier to gather in places. I'm not sure if like masks are going to be, they're not required anymore, but there's so many what ifs and there are so many things that we're unsure about. I'm not sure when we're gonna get back to normal.
I don't know. People call it unprecedented times, and we hear that word a lot, but it's true. It's very clear that some colleges care more than others with COVID and quarantine. I think that schools will take their students and what they want and what they need a little bit more seriously. And I think that students' voices will be really amplified a lot after all of this, because I definitely felt that this year. I felt as though faculty and staff turned to us and said, what do you need right now? And that felt very productive and very inviting and encouraging. It's going to take some time. It's not going to be next year. It's not going to be the year after, but I hope that in a couple of years, college can look like it did when I started, not when I ended. I hope that people don't stop taking this seriously, even after it's over.